Good evening, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to 2024 elections. My name is Faraz Patel. We'd like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. Of course, we're getting closer and closer to those May the 29th polls. And every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we bring in political parties, different stakeholders, civil society, to look ahead to what is going to be one of the most hotly contested polls that South Africa has faced during its democratic era. Today, my guest is Funzi Ngobeni from the Actionsa. And Actionsa, of course, founded during just the post-COVID era and, of course, contested during the 2021 municipal elections and have played quite a huge role in terms of various municipalities and metros. Now, they're looking for the first time to contest on a national and provincial level. And, of course, Funzi Ngobeni is the premier candidate for Gauteng for Actionsa. Mr. Ngobeni, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal TV.
Thank you very much, Faraz. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Our first time contesting national and provincial elections. It's a very similar campaign, but a lot more revved up because now it's on the provincial and the national level. So how's it been so far for Actionsa?
Yeah, look, I mean, the last election we contested, as you correctly said, was local government. But even in local government, we only contested three metros in Gauteng. So this time around, we are campaigning across the province for Gauteng in particular, but we're campaigning across the 9 provinces. And each and every voting stations will be occupied by Actionsa. So it's been a hectic one for us in particular because we have never stopped campaigning. Since we established the party, we have been engaging with communities, we have been engaging with experts. You'll remember that we had to go to our policy conference at some point last year around September. And for us to get there, we had to engage communities, engage the experts so that we can be able to put together a policy suite that actually speaks to what is happening in South Africa. So it's been hectic, but we are here.
Mr. Ngobeni, I want to touch on crime because you were a victim of crime just last week. Of course, you were hijacked, and thankfully, you've obviously you were saved along with another colleague of yours. Now, crime it's really spiraled out of control. When you look at the Q1 stats, it doesn't show for great reading. What is Actionsa's plan? I saw your leader, Herman Mashaba, of course, outside of the Primrose police station, a police station that's not looking that great, and there's a lot of corruption and malfeasance happening in that station. So what's Actionsa's plan to try and curb the crime rate that's quite high in South Africa?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that needs to be done for us, but I mean, touching on the issue of police stations, I mean, here in Gauteng, we've got 144 police stations. I mean, they are saving close to about 16 million of us as residents here. It's not enough. In fact, we did a campaign on this police station at some point where we visited most of them. And when you are in those police stations, what you find is that the police stations are dysfunctional. The police themselves are demotivated to actually be operating from those police stations. They don't have police vans. The telephone lines are not working, and now because of load shedding, they have to close their gates when power is off. So those are some of the things that we have to fix. Those are the basics, really. Giving police the necessary resources to be able to fight crime. It can't be that when I'm hijacked or a woman is raped and they need assistance, that they run to the police station and they find the police station is closed because there's no power. So that is why, I mean, Actionsa, you'll remember, we also went to court to say those type of establishment needs to be given a reprieve when there's load shedding. So our plan really in terms of combating crime, it involves that, but it also talks to professionalizing police services. We can't have police service that is politicized. We need to give the right person put the right person in the right position and ensure that they are all trained, that they're continuously assessed, that they are still fit to be able to do the work. That's one of the things that we really need to work on. But here in the province, Firaz, what I can say is that, of course, you'll know that the provincial government doesn't have a competency of of policing. Constitutionally, that competency lies at national. But here at the provincial level, we can only do an oversight. But as Actionsa, we are advocating that policing in terms of competency need to be devolved to the province. What we mean by that is that we need to have SAPS that is responsible, that the province can be able to hold accountable, but that the province can be able to give instructions on. And why we're asking that is because we've got different types of crime happening in our province. It will be different from what you experience in Limpopo or in Northwest, you speak about the Zamazamas, for example. You speak about hijacked buildings. You speak about illegal immigration. You speak about many other things that are happening, drugs that are actually ravaging our communities in Eldos, in Westbury and other places, So we need localized policing. We need people that will be able to work with communities in clamping down the crime that is happening in their community, which is different from what you will get somewhere else. So that is why we think that the policing powers really needs to be devolved to the provinces. But also as a province, we need to make sure that we support the local law enforcement agencies, the metro police that are there, the patrollers that are working with our communities on the ground, even the private security firms that are operating in our communities. We need a joint effort that is coordinated by the province, so that we can be able then to start going into the ground, obviously working with the intelligence, the crime intelligence of SAPS to be able to do with that. We do that for us while we are addressing the socio-economic the challenges that are affecting our communities, which are also drivers of this crime. We're just talking about the drugs that are ravaging our communities. Young people have got no jobs, young people are roaming our streets, they've got nowhere to go, and poverty levels have gone up, inequality have gone up. So it's those are social issues that we need to then be resolving on the side while we are fixing the police system as well. So I for one, I feel that we are living in a state of emergency type of a situation. We are losing almost 88 people a day here in South Africa. It cannot be a normal thing. We need to be able then to start saying what is it that we need to be able to do to stop the trajectory, because currently it's going up in terms of murder rate, in terms of house robberies. Everything that as you were saying, the stats pointed exactly to that. So how do we then arrest this trajectory to ensure that we stabilize what is happening? We can only do so if we adopt a business as unusual approach. We must really be unapologetic that look, we are in an abnormal situation. How then do we then start reversing this? As I said, the first thing, let's devolve the powers to the provinces. Let's work with communities, but also let's look at bringing more reinforcement in terms of South African National Defence Force. Let them come and assist us in normalizing situations in our cities, especially here in Gauteng. We have had situation where communities have called for SNDF to come. They will be there for a certain period and then they will leave, and the crime will actually return again. Just now, before I came here, I was in West Village in Krugersdorp. The communities there are living in fear. Every day guns are going out, and they know that it's the Zamazamas that are fighting amongst themselves. Sometimes it's Zamazamas robbing people on the street. Bekikele have been there, South African National Defence Force have been there, but they were there for a short period. And then they left. Once they left, these guys came back again. So we need a sustainable presence of police agencies, law enforcement agencies that will ensure that we eradicate this thing. We kill it altogether so that our people can live freely. Businesses can be able to operate. And that's how we're going to then get more people to be employed.
Mr. Ngobeni, you spoke of the Zamazamas, and many of them are illegal immigrants. Actionsa has been very hard on immigrants coming into South Africa, which has, of course, brought the fury of organizations like the Helen Suzman Foundation and other lobby groups. They feel that Actionsa is a bit too hard on its policy with regards to immigrants. What do you respond to that when they mention those?
No, I think we have been quite clear that we want people of the world to come to South Africa. We want them to come and invest here. We want them to come and visit our beautiful country and spend their dollars and pounds here. We want them to come and invest here, do business here. Those that have critical skills to share with us, we want them to come. And those that wants to come and study here, they are welcome. We must be able to put the red carpet for them to come and do so. But we are saying people must come legally into our country, and once they are here, they must respect our laws. We cannot have situation, Firaz, where people will come into our country and open hair salons and spaza shop without going through the channels, and without us knowing how the money has actually come into the country. We don't even know how this money is going to leave the country, because it definitely doesn't go through SARS. It definitely doesn't go through the Reserve Bank. So we are saying basically that everyone is welcome to South Africa. Let's all come and enjoy the beauty of this country. But when we do so, come legally here, and when we are here, you must respect our laws. That's been our stance, and we don't understand how people will say to us that our stance is it's harsh, when actually this type of an approach is happening across the world. Any country that you go in, you go legally. If you are there illegally, they chase you out. They basically get you to leave the country. So that's our position at the moment, and we think that we are on the right track. I mean, the Constitution of South Africa supports exactly what we are saying.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Funzi and Ngobeni. We're going to looking ahead from the political perspective of coalition governments, the political perspective of how the multi-party charter will work, and of course how it's going to affect Gauteng province, which is another hotly contested one. Do stay tuned to 2024 elections. Welcome to 2024 elections. I'm in conversation with Actionsa Gauteng Premier candidate Funzi Ngobeni. Mr. Ngobeni, of course, the Actionsa is part of the multi-party charter. How does Actionsa separate itself from the multi-party charter in terms of the possibility, if we look at polls, and of course polls are not a definitive, it's what happens on the day of the ballot when it comes to coalition governments?
Look, we are contesting this election, particularly in Gauteng, to win it. We are asking people of Gauteng to give us a full mandate, so that Actionsa can run Gauteng and deliver the change that we are advocating for. But in the event that the voters gives us a coalition, we have been working with various parties ahead of this election. In the multi-party charter, as you correctly said, and after the election, we'll sit down and then assess the situation, assess the numbers, and then decide based on the agreement that we have signed with all these parties on who's going to lead the government if we are in a coalition, and which direction will be taking. We have already agreed on principles, on growing the economy, of ensuring that we deal with crime, of ensuring that we professionalize civil service, all those fundamentals. We agree as these parties that we are going. If voters decides that we must be in a coalition, that will be. We do understand that there are a number of other parties that are not yet in the charter itself that have indicated that they will fight these elections, and then they will then come and have a conversation with whoever that will have want to talk to them. We are open to engage with those parties, but obviously we have made it clear that we're not going to go into a coalition at the provincial and national level with the ANC or the EFF.
Why not?
Look, I mean, the ANC, it's quite obvious that the problems that we are talking about today, they are the creators of these problems. They are at the center of collapse in this country. And for us to be able to fix this country, we cannot work with the problem. With regards to the EFF, of course, we differ fundamentally when it comes to policies. They are on the left hand side, we are in the center, and in most cases we won't be able to agree on many other things. We have worked with the EFF very well at local government elections when Mr. Mashaba was the mayor.
Yes.
I was with him as the MMC of Finance. Initially, I was the MMC of Development Planning. And we worked well. We managed to make sure that the toilets are delivered to the poor, that there's electricity that is delivered, not only to the poor, but substations were upgraded. We made sure that there's water that was running on the tap, working with Johannesburg Water. And so on basic service delivery issues, there was no issues with us with the EFF. We managed to insource security guards. We managed to start taking away some of these hijacked buildings in Johannesburg and giving them to the private sector. We differed on that on that issue, but we managed to find each other, because you'll remember EFF will say, government must do everything. Why are you inviting the white monopoly capital, as they will call it? But we sat down around the table. We said, look, let's look at the balance sheet of the city of Johannesburg. Let's look at the balance sheet of the country. Do you think that we will be able to afford, to rejuvenate these buildings and give it to the poor, with the money that we currently have? We agreed that the balance sheet doesn't allow us. Then we sort of agreed that let's give it to the private sector, and that process started. With the insourcing, it was the idea that came from the EFF. At that time, Mashaba was with the DA. It was never the policy of the DA, but we managed to find each other. And today, as I'm speaking to you, we are the champions of insourcing as Actionsa. So on those things we managed to agree. But at the national level, we've constantly said we won't be able to work with those two parties. But yeah, we'll see after the elections. Which other parties will want to come and work with us, but we are ready to basically hit the ground running as Actionas in Gauteng.
You talk about differences. Your leader Herman Mashaba criticized the DA for the burning of the flag, and that's caused a lot of uproar within South Africa. Many people believing that it's a burning of a national symbol, and that it's quote unquote tantamount to treason. These were words coming out, if I stand to be corrected, from Azizi Kodwa, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. So if the DA is having ideas like that in their TV advert, and you as Actionsa are disagreeing on that, can you still find a sort of agreement with regards to that multi-party charter?
Yeah, no, we differ with them from time to time, and I think even here in Tshwane, where we are in a coalition with them, we have held them accountable. We have always said for us that being in a coalition doesn't mean that we are friends, and when you do something wrong as another party, do not expect Actionsa to defend you. Likewise, we don't expect the other parties to defend us when we are out of line. We must be held accountable. So I think that's where most of the parties get it wrong when it comes to coalition. To think that because you are in a coalition, you must therefore, close ranks. When others are doing things, you must close ranks. You must defend each other, and try and spin things that are not spinnable. So for us, you are quite clear that when we get into a coalition, just know that the interest of our residents are number one. And if any of our partners decides to do otherwise, we'll criticize them, we'll hold them accountable, and the same thing that will happen even at the provincial and national government. Here in Tshwane, as I was saying, there's so many things. We can talk about the mayor that Randall Abrams, that we pushed for DA to take a step against him, and eventually they removed him as a mayor because of some of the fundamental things that he was doing wrong, including the Rooiwal water treatment plant, which he was not prioritizing, even though it was part of our agreement. The insourcing of security guards, the Kritos sort of procurement that went wrong, which we felt that he was not doing it according to the law, and we took it to the DA, and we said this will not be acceptable, and we demanded that the mayor must be removed, and that's why we've got Celia Spreng currently being the mayor. So it shows again for us that when you are in a coalition, put the interest of the residents ahead of the party interest. Hold each other accountable, because that's what voters want, and that's what the residents want.
But some residents in the metros, I'm going to talk about the ones that Actionsa is, of course, part of, Johannesburg, Tshwane, and the city of Ekurhuleni, a lot of disgruntledness because of infighting within the chamber, not delivering what the residents want. I'm not saying it's all Action SA's fault, because it takes two to tango, and there are many other political parties. So what makes you convinced that coalitions can work on a provincial level and a national level, given that this is a much larger scale to what it is in the metros?
Yeah. No, I think it can work for us. I mean, I was saying to someone the other day that some of these things just that takes maturity. It takes just politicians being matured and humbling themselves to the environment, because voters have put you there. And they said you must work with other parties. Therefore, you must respect each and every party. It doesn't matter whether that party has 9 votes or got 1 vote. If you are in a pact and you are in a coalition, everybody's voice matters. Because when we were running this coalition with Mr. Mashaba, you'll remember that EFF was not a coalition partner. They were voting with us on an issue-by-issue basis. But everything that we did, we consulted. We opened books. We said, this is why this is happening. And when we were about to pass the budget, we said, these are programs that we think that we must prioritize. And all the other parties will say, we feel that this other one needs to be more prioritized than this. And we found each other. It takes time to have those type of conversations, but they must be had so that we can be able to go into council together, united, knowing exactly that all the voices were heard in that particular report. So it takes maturity, but I think the lessons that have been learned in local government as well will be taken into provincial and national elections, and we'll be able to have a coalition. For us as the MPC, we have already agreed on principles. We've already agreed on where we must prioritize our focus, and I think going into government in the province will be quite clear. Remember, one of the challenges in South Africa is that after elections, we only have 14 days to form a coalition. And people were asking us, why are we having conversations before elections? It's precisely because 14 days is not enough to find a common ground. The conversations needs to be genuine, and I think what the multi-party charter have done has allowed parties to do exactly that. Once we are in government, we now focus on how do we then ensure that we clean up the corruption, we professionalize our offices, we ensure that we've got a program that is solid, that is backed by the budget that we have to start delivering on the ground, so that residents can see the difference in a short space of time.
Okay, Mr. Ngobeni, I kept this bit of time to address this issue. Right now, I know your leader, Herman Mashaba, has had a very good relationship with many Muslim businessmen and Muslim communities. It's a long-standing relationship that he's had with them. But his utterances right now on the genocide in Gaza, right, has been, or his muted stance on it has been very disappointing towards them, right? Many of your multi-party partners, especially the Democratic Alliance, they seem to have lost the confidence within the Muslim voters. And I think that's quite clear and evident right over there. And of course, Hilaal TV, we cater for a non-Muslim audience, but also mostly Muslim audience. So Action SA stance with regards to what is currently happening in Gaza at this moment. And I want to bring in another element. Mustafa Darsot, somebody that you know quite well, quote unquote, said that he was let go from Action SA because he raised this issue. Very similar to Khalid Kachalia raising a very similar issue with the Democratic Alliance. Now, Action SA wants to try and get the Muslim vote. I would assume that the 2 million, 2.5 million, but they can only do that if, of course, their stance on what's happening in Gaza is one of solidarity. So I'm going to give you time, Mr. Ngobeni, to explain that, to maybe give Action SA a spot, because it seemed to have left a very sour taste in the mouths of the Muslim community here in South Africa.
Yeah, look, I think we sympathize with the people of the Middle East. I think that's what Mashaba has always said, and calling for peace in that part of the world. That's exactly what he has said. I've heard people say he's pro-Israel, but I've never heard or seen him saying I'm pro-Israel. In fact, he has always said we want to, these two states coexist, for people to coexist, and he has always said, look, we also have have challenges in South Africa, which we need to give a focus on and attention on. But he has never, sort of said he doesn't care about what is happening in Gaza. So we remain hopeful, and we are praying at all times that a solution will be found in the Middle East that will be sustainable, that will end, the killings that are happening there, and eventually we can be able to see that part of the world moving in a positive trajectory where everyone is able to live without fear. That's really what we have said, and of course I'm not an expert in international relations, and I wouldn't want to pretend that I'm a spokesperson of Actionsa in that regard, but that's what we've been saying throughout, and of course we said that we lost Mustafa as one of our members, and it's a decision that he made, which we respected, and we worked very well together. But we still have many of the other colleagues who are here with us, who will continue working with us on local issues and international issues, and when it's needed, we'll be able to then bring them in as well, so that they can be able to speak to you. But for us as Actionsa, we have always made that point that we're really praying and hoping that a solution will be found in the Middle East that will be sustainable.
How do you convince the Muslim voter? Because the Muslim voter is quite, they're driven by a number of emotions. Sorry, I know we're out of time, but I'm going to give you 1 minute to speak about this. They're driven by emotions. They're driven by the mothers and the children and the fathers that are being slaughtered in Gaza right now. They've been moved to Rafah, and the conditions are deplorable. I know people that are there. So how do you tell the Muslim voter that, look, trust in us as Actionsa? Maybe domestically you may have sincere ambitions to fix the country, but that is a topic that a lot of them are looking at when they're heading into the polls, and they feel Actionsa has let them down. 1 minute, Mr. Ngobeni.
Yeah, look, I mean, we might not be in government now, but we can commit that if we are in government, we will work with the Muslim community and the international world towards finding a solution in Gaza. I think, as I said, I don't want to pretend as if I'm the spokesperson of Actionsa on these matters, but we are quite clear when it comes to international relations that we must protect human rights, and we need to work towards that, and we need to ensure that nations coexist and work together so that they can be able to grow their nations, but also to participate in nations building. As Mandela used to say. So it's something that we are committed on, and we also continue to say, let's pray for leaders that will find a solution to the issues of Middle East, which have been going on for many years. Let's pray that the carnage will stop. And those that are making efforts, like South Africa going to the JCI, ACJ, I mean, we need to continue encouraging them to do so, because they've got a responsibility as government, and they've got resources to be able to do so, and we must encourage them to do so. So, and hoping that we will find a solution at some point in the issue of the Middle East.
Mr. Ngobeni, unfortunately, I've run out of time. We actually overstretched the time. All the best ahead of your candidacy for the province of Gauteng, and of course, we will be speaking to you as the parties probably during our coverage at the ROC. Thank you so much for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That's Funzi Ngobeni. He is the Actionsa Gauteng Premier candidate. That's all we have for you here from Elections 2024. I will see you again on Monday. From myself, Ross Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.